Hello, hello. My name is Ibrahim Malone with Yes, I Work From Home, and this is a podcast. Today I have Sarry Ibrahim from Chicago, Illinois with us. He is a financial coach and advisor. Sarry, why don't you go ahead and tell us your story? How did you get started working from home? I know you've done it for on and off 10 years.
Mhm.
Go ahead and just tell us your story from the beginning.
Yeah, April, thank you so much, first of all, for having me on your show. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to our conversation. I started working from home really right around the time I was doing my MBA. So I kind of got lucky because I was doing my MBA in project management. I thought I was going to be a project manager, but then I started to work with different insurance companies. I worked like my first professional job was at Allstate Insurance in sales and marketing. And the advantages of being an insurance agent is that you, for the most part, get to work from anywhere in the world, really. You just need a phone and internet. And obviously, after COVID, it made things a lot easier. But this is way before COVID. I had already had experience working from home, and I still had an office setting that I would go to. But in the beginning, it was kind of like sometimes I work from home, and then sometimes I'd go to the office. And it really didn't make a big difference because, again, it was all over the phone. And then I thought, I want to make this into a career. I wanted to go into financial advising as well as insurance because I could also do financial coaching and financial advising also virtually. And I worked as a Medicare consultant, same thing. It was all virtual for a couple of years. And then I founded a company called Financial Asset Protection. And I help clients in all 50 states build wealth, protect wealth, also with insurance products, Medicare, I do it all entirely from home, virtually in all 50 states. And then, yeah, definitely I have a home office and like a little podcast studio. That's how I do the podcast as a guest and as well as on my own show, Thinking Like a Bank. And yeah, definitely. So feel free to ask me whatever you'd like, and I'm excited to be here.
I want to double check and make sure I heard you correctly. You found a company or you founded a company called Financial Asset
Yeah,
Protection?
founded a company called Financial Asset Protection.
And how long ago did you do that?
About 2 years ago, actually
Right.
officially started the company.
And were you like transitioning out from like working under an employer at that
Yeah,
point?
yeah, good question. So I had been always kind of not always, but I had been doing kind of two different things. I was a full-time employee, it's a
Mhm.
W-2 employee for different companies, as well as on the side I had my company, but it was all within compliance and the employer knew and other clients knew that kind of the relationship what how the relationship was structured. It was kind of two different work. Like the Medicare side was the employee side, and then the self-employed side was the financial services side.
So the conflict of interest didn't exist. It was okay. All right. Got it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. And that's something I recommend if you do have a full-time job as a W-2 employee and you want to start a business on the side, make sure you disclose it with your employer. And it's not like the same job you're doing on the side. It's like, for example, like you work at a company as a consultant and then you want to do real estate on the side, something like that, something where it's kind of a different industry, different clientele,
Right.
different demographic. Mhm.
Yeah. You might have signed a no compete
Yeah, for sure.
agreement and not remembered or known or didn't read it all the way through kind of thing. So yeah. And then you mentioned earlier at the beginning that when you were working for the insurance company, you could have worked anywhere in the world. And that is a little bit unique. As were you a W-2 employee at that time too? Because I know a lot of times taxes, like they really need to know exactly where you're living. And that's a little bit tricky to be like nomadic and moving around.
Exactly. Yeah. So if that's kind of a little tricky. Yeah. So I was a W-2 employee. I had to be in the United States. I had to be in the United States when I was the employee. But I thought like in general, just being an insurance agent and financial advisor, you could technically do that anywhere in the world because you're self-employed.
Mm-hmm.
You would be self-employed at that point and you would own your own company. Your company would
Yeah.
be located in one of the 50 states, and then you could access the company. You could pretty much do work virtually as long as you have a phone, a US phone number, and then access to all of the domains for the insurance companies and financial institutions.
Right. Also, double check with your company and make sure that they're cool with
Yeah, yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
But I guess if you're the boss, then you make the rules, right?
exactly. Yeah, definitely.
I have been working as an independent contractor for a couple of companies just teaching English to
Yeah.
kids in China, essentially. And one of them allowed you to live anywhere and you'd make the same rate.
Oh,
The
wow.
other one, you had to disclose where you lived, or they'd figure it out from your IP address. And
Yeah.
they were pretty smart with the VPNs. They could figure that out. So some people would try to move from a low cost of living area, or from a high cost of living area into a
Yeah.
low cost, like from say the States to like the Philippines,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
they would get their pay cut. They would go down to the local rate, um, which is supposedly competitive for each market. But standard of living would be very different.
Oh my God, like more than 10 times different
Yeah.
between the
So
US and Philippines.
yeah,
Yeah.
but all those companies are struggling right now because of regulations in China that are changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a long story. So anyway, let's talk about you. um, so you are working out of Chicago, Illinois. Have you always been there?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm from Chicago, born and raised here. And yeah, I live here in the city and I've always lived here for sure.
And went to school there and everything.
Yeah. Everything here. My whole life is here.
Did you ever work? You said you worked kind of a hybrid situation, part half one leg in, one leg
Yeah.
out of the
Yeah.
home office. Did you ever work solely in a brick and mortar office?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So I kind of always been bouncing around between either a W-2 employee or a consult or a contractor or owner of a business, actual business. So
Mm-hmm.
between those three, kind of always interchangeably bouncing around. Yeah. So there were times where I actually had to go to like a 9 to 5 like office where I had to be there Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Yeah, I've done that too. And how did you end up transitioning? You wanted to talk a little bit about what that felt like, when you decided to go. I mean, do you currently have one leg in a W-2 as well,
No,
or
yeah,
currently
right
you're
now
all the
just
way out?
100% self-employed. So yeah, so it's a good question. So the transition from being a W-2 employee and part-time business owner to full-time business owner and no other W-2 connections at all, was a scary move, obviously, because there's no more like guaranteed biweekly pay. That there was kind of this the scarcity behind that. But at the same time, you kind of have, I mean, if you're in that situation, you kind of really have to prioritize like the pros and cons for doing something, and then really like drill down on your objective, like what is it you want to do, like what I had really wanted to do, like from the time I got my insurance license to the time I worked at Allstate and these different companies, I started to think a lot, like, okay, like I could be independent, number one. Number two, I could practice insurance and financial services in any of the 50 states. So that got me thinking. So in my opinion, the most lucrative and the most financially beneficial thing you could do is be independent and have no territorial limitations. So that when I had those, I mean, found when I like checked those two things off of my list, I was there. That's what I want to do. Now, the only ways I would be able to do those two things if I own the business, if I can make those decisions, because everywhere else, they're going to have their own rules. You have to still abide by some of their rules and how you practice and where you practice and what types of insurance. But I wanted no limits. I wanted no caps on that to be able to do all types of insurance if I wanted and all types of financial planning. And again, you have to be self-employed, independent, and have no territory requirements for that. So when I made that move, yeah, it was scary, but at the same time, I knew that I was going to fulfill my initial objective, something that I wanted to do. And the reason why I wanted to do all that was ultimately to make more money. And then why I wanted to make more money was to have more financial freedom, to be able to travel more, to be able to do more things in life, take care of my family, by having more money. So that's kind of like the alignment of whys. And I think that's really important. And when you have that alignment of whys, it makes it easier to make that scary jump.
Right. And having like any kind of safety net or something like that is also
Yeah.
probably helpful. Did it take a while for you to feel like you were secure again?
Yeah, so yeah, for sure. So that's a good point. Yeah. When you go from, that's a perfect example. When you go from W-2 and then you go to completely self-employed, 100% self-employed, no other sources of income except for the income you produce. Yeah, there's a couple different things you need. And this is something I do as a financial coach, something I do with clients. So number one, you either need like 6 months of all your expenses in a reserve. So if your monthly expenses are like $5,000, you would need at least $30,000 on the side. So this way, when you start your company, then you could pay yourself like $5,000 a month out of that account as if it was a monthly paycheck or biweekly paycheck. And then by the time that account runs out, you would hopefully have made more money from your company. That's one angle. And then the second thing you could do is get access to like low interest or 0% interest financing. There's a different, this is kind of a little bit risky to do this. This is something I did. So I used like a credit card with like a $20,000 line of credit for 0% interest for the first year. That along with the reserves also, and then raising capital from like family, friends, or other business associates. That's also depends on the company you own, the industry you're in. Most of the time, it's not going to be applicable to people because in order to really raise capital, you kind of need some structure already. Even if it's a startup, you still need like business plan, budgets, forecasts, project management, all these different things. And a lot of new startup business owners don't really have those things. So it's going to be a little bit tricky to get there. Not
Right.
impossible, but just
To
a little bit
prove,
tricky.
yeah, that you
Yeah.
have something that's in demand.
Exactly. Yeah. And then even the access to those investors is a little bit tricky in itself. Like you have to have the referrals and all that. They don't just talk to usually anybody. So it could be a combination of one of those three. So either the reserves, access to low interest money, or raising capital. Or even the fourth one is having like a part-time side hustle, something that you could do on the weekends or something outside of normal business hours. See that this is why it can get tricky when you have like a 9 to 5 job and then you also want to start a business. Not only could it conflict with your company and compete with your company, but also logistics wise, like time wise. Like, for example, if you work 9 to 5 and then you want to meet with a banker or you want to meet with a potential employee or investor or partner, it's probably going to take place between Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 within your business hours. So your part-time side hustle should be outside of those hours. This is how people do Uber and Lyft and why they do Uber and Lyft and like
Yeah.
work part-time on weekends. So that way they can use that money to fund their business during the week. So there's kind of 4 different ways. And those are, for me, it was one of 2 ways. It was the reserves and then borrowing low interest money. Third, I never raised capital from outside investors. And then fourth, I didn't really have any part-time side hustles, except for my real full-time job and the business on the side. So it was mostly 1 and 2 for me.
Right. So that's a lot to digest. I'm curious if you have, and so these are, I'm not in either sector. Like I
Yeah.
don't know insurance and I don't know finance. So I'll be
Mhm.
asking some kind of like newbie questions here.
Yeah.
Do you, so you were saying, and I guess I do have some friends who are insurance agents. And yeah, there's always that thing that like I am authorized to work within these so many states.
Yeah.
How is it that you were able to secure all 50? Like, was that literally something that's connected to each business or company?
Yeah, so the way I'm able to do all 50 states is okay. So there's something called independent agent and then there's captive agent. So independent means that I can go to any insurance company and get a contract with them and then ask to sell their products.
Okay.
Sometimes there's some loops you have to go through. You have to actually like qualify to sell their products. You have to go through like an interview process and actually get accepted. Other most of the time they want, obviously that's one of their sources of growth is by having outside like sellers. So that's on the independent side. I could go to any company and sell for them. If I was captive, I can only sell for one company or for some companies that are affiliated with the company that I have a captive agreement with. That's one part of the captive side. And then also they're typically territories. So like, for example, if you are an Allstate agent or State Farm agent, typically you can only write in one state. If you want to write in other states, you have to get permission from your carrier that you're appointed by. So the way I kind of do all 50 states is by not having any direct affiliations with carriers. I'm not captive to any companies. I'm completely independent. So that opens up the opportunity to do all 50. Plus, in the insurance business, I only have to do the test in my own home state, the licensing and the testing in my home state. And then every new license I get in different states is just I go on a website and I buy the license. So, for example, I'm in Illinois. I have a client in California. I just go to the national website for the insurance producers and then buy the California license. I don't have to go to California and take a test there. So that also opens up the ability to do it nationally. So industry wise, it's you have the ability with insurance to do it in all 50 states. If I was like a mortgage broker, very difficult to do in different states. A lot of mortgage brokers are only have like 1 or 2 states. But yeah, that's how I'm able to do it.
Okay. Well, that's, yeah, the captive thing, like that's quite the word, like, ooh, yeah, that's pretty descriptive.
Yeah.
And then as far as finding your clients, are you
Yeah.
finding people that need financial help and insurance help, the same people, and you're doing both for them, or are they kind of separate?
Yeah, they're kind of separate. Sometimes they overlap, but yeah, for the most part, they're kind of separate. And I have different ways of coming across those clients. Like one way is our podcast, Thinking Like a Bank. That helps me generate leads. Also, doing guest appearances like this on other people's shows, that also helps me get my name out there. It helps people go to our landing page and then work with us. I also have like referrals from other businesses I've done in the past, like my Medicare client, Medicare book of business. I've gotten referrals from them from other Medicare products as well as financial. So it's kind of like many different ways, from our website, email marketing, LinkedIn, all kind of funneling together. And obviously, when you are working from home and you're self-employed and you own your company, you need that is 80% of the business is lead generation and finding new clients. 20% of it is only going to be technical stuff and really drilling down the industry, but 80% of that is going to be finding new clients. That's going to be the vast majority. It's going to be the most important thing, because it's not like I have a billboard or like, a street front office where people could just drive in and deal with me. I have to like do everything virtually in all 50 states and figure out ways to connect with people, and to help them reach their goals and their objectives, all done, virtually.
How do you connect with people?
Yeah. 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 So I connected people, either over the phone or over Zoom, and they can go to, like, for example, my landing page, finassetprotection.com. They can schedule a call there. They can also find that link from our podcast, Thinking Like a Bank. They could go to our YouTube channel, LinkedIn. What else is there? So once they go through that, they go through the email system or email newsletter. They can jump on a call with me, and let's see what else is. How else is there to connect with me? Yeah, it's either gonna be phone or Zoom.
Would you usually say it's like a 50-50 that people prefer a phone versus Zoom, or do you try to do the face-to-face meeting like this?
No, most of the time people initially want to do phone 1st.
Uh-huh.
They're like 80% they want to do phone just because they're already kind of, they don't know you, they don't want to jump on video. Sometimes people are like, let's just go right into Zoom. And that's fine. Yeah, I'm open to either way. In the beginning, it doesn't really make a difference. I think when we start talking about their financial planning and their solutions, yeah, then people want to see video. They feel more comfortable seeing the actual person, especially when you have to think about it. Like, I'm doing virtual cases with people, and sometimes people are going to invest like $50,000 a year over the next 20 years. So they want to be able to, like, actually know that person. And this is what the podcast is for. The podcast is for to build that rapport, to build that trust with people, and then from clients that I help, and then to get referrals from them and testimonials. And it's definitely an ongoing process, but I love it. I've always, in the back of my mind, I've always thought of, the ability to work from home and own your own company entirely. Like, if you think of American Express, like, American Express really never had an actual physical. They probably have some offices or throughout the country that you can go to, some branches, but for the most part, they started off as a virtual company. A lot of insurance companies, a lot of banks did things virtually. A lot of, like, professional service companies started off, even since like the 90s, we're doing everything virtually over online and through phones and fax. So I've always been attracted to that, and I've always wanted to do that and pursue that kind of lifestyle.
I don't think I ever really thought about it that way, but you're probably right. You probably know more than I do about that. We, when you're building trust with someone, do you have any tips? Like, a lot of people now are having to build relationships with people virtually, on the phone, on video. How much of your personal life do you let leak in to help build that rapport?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you definitely want your person. So you want to start off with you first. Like for example, if you are an accountant, you want to first, and you want to build trust with people. You want to talk about yourself, your life, your background story, your family, and why you got into accounting, and why you're helping people, and how you're doing that. And then get into your products and services and the commodity part of it, like the cost of it, and all those other things. And I think a lot of people flip those, where they come in talking about, like, I'm just an accountant, I just do numbers, I just do, I help people, this is how much I charge. And they think that their backstory and their personality is irrelevant at that point, because they're very business focused, they're commoditized and business focused. And it's not supposed to be like a commercial. It's supposed to be like entirely your story. And then why. And people love, like, to build trust with people. The people's favorite answer is why. They love the question, why you want to do something. And when you explain your why to people are more attracted to that. So I think, like, why is like the most favorable question people have. It's the most personal and the widest question somebody could ask. So explain that, talk about your why and why you got into something like that.
And for you, it's about helping people, it sounds like.
Yeah, definitely. I help people find financial freedom in life. I help them connect with their goals, and I help them either solve money problems they're having, like having, like getting out of debt, buying a house, things like that. Or also, if they have a surplus of capital that they want to deploy places, I also help them with that. So either good problems or bad problems financially.
And why would someone choose an independent person like yourself versus, a tried and true big bank or something like that?
Yeah. So you want, again, this is my opinion, but you want somebody who's independent, because, like, for example, I don't have a boss right now telling me that I have to sell for this company and I have to sell this product. In most situations in financial services, it's the other way around. And in most situations, it's going to be captive. Like, for example, if you went to, I really don't want to name any companies. I don't want to get in trouble.
Go ahead.
If you went to,
be safe.
Yeah. If you went to, for example, ABC Mutual Fund, the advisor you're speaking to, it could only sell ABC Mutual Fund. They can only sell for the company ABC, and the only type of product they could sell is typically going to be a mutual fund. So those two things might not be a good fit for you. What if you don't want to do a mutual fund? What if you wanted to do something completely different than a mutual fund? The fact that you're talking to that advisor now, the only thing they could sell you is the mutual fund from ABC company. That's going to limit your ability to do different things. And they're putting their interest before yours. They're saying, what products can I sell? Where can I sell them? Whereas when you go to somebody who's completely independent, I can listen to the client. A client could tell me, hey, I want to do passive real estate investing in self-storage facilities in Texas. And I could help them. I can connect them with somebody who could do that exact same thing, who could do that thing because they're passionate about commercial real estate and they want those types of returns and they're attracted to that. And then so vice versa, if they wanted to do I don't have to think about what I could potentially sell them before they talk to them. I can have a complete unbiased, I could take an unbiased view at their financial situation, which is how it should be. That's like saying you go to a physician and the physician could only prescribe like 2 or 3 medications to you. So anything you say is going to result in those 2 or 3 medications. And that's not how it should be. It should be the physician could prescribe essentially any type of drug for you as long as it's relevant for you and it's going to help you.
What's best for you. Got
Yes,
it.
what's best for you.
So opens up so many doors that others might be limited in. Okay. Let's talk about working out of Chicago. Do you live in an apartment? Do you live in a house? Do you live in a busy area? Do you mind talking about that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So I live in the city of Chicago. I live in an apartment in the city of Chicago, and we're actually like days away from closing on a house in the suburbs, about like 45 minutes away from where we live now. So yeah, I live in a busy area in Chicago. I live in a right off of the lake in a apartment building with like 500 units. So luckily our apartment is kind of spacious. So I have like a home office in here, and it's also my podcast studio. And and when we moved to one of the reasons why we're moving to the house in the suburbs is obviously for more room. That's one of the reasons why people move from Chicago, the city of Chicago, inner city, to the suburbs, is because you can get way more space for less value. Like the cost of like a 1-bedroom condo is in the city is equal to like a 4-bedroom house in the suburbs. So that's why we're moving, is I could have like more room, a bigger office and more space. And then even maybe I've thought about getting an actual office, like storefront office, or in a professional building. But then I think like I don't really need it at this moment because I'm operating completely fine. So that's something I might potentially do. Maybe if I have employees now, they're also virtual too. But maybe if I have some employees who prefer to come to an office, I might consider that angle in the future.
Yeah. Or possibly consider like a co-working space, or
yeah, definitely, for
rent
sure.
a conference room here or there. This has come up actually a few times in the most recent episodes that I've recorded. Like I actually was recording with someone yesterday, and it came up like some people feel like, working from home is less in some way, and having that storefront office is more, that it has that legitimacy to it. But honestly, I feel like it's kind of getting flipped. And all of a sudden now the ability to work from home is the luxury.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
When you said you already have a house picked out. So what kind of setup will you have that's different from what you have now?
Yeah, so I will have actually more, like I'll have the actual my own office, and then I'll have like another. I'm thinking about separating the podcast studio from the office, and this is some things you have to kind of think about, like lighting and like sound wise. So I might have the podcast studio like in the basement, and then I might have my office upstairs. So that's kind of the difference, is I get to separate the home office from the studio. I might just do everything in the meantime. I'm going to test it out and see how I can kind of have everything come together, sound wise, lighting, and all those other things.
And internet, because are you going to be connecting with Ethernet? Are you going to be using a mesh? Or how are you going to get just as high speed internet down in the basement as you will have up in your office?
No, I didn't think about that actually.
Yes. I work in a closet, and I have my router in the same room as me because I like to be connected with Ethernet. And especially when you do your podcast, is it all audio, or do you also have a video component as well?
It's always video and audio. The video part goes to YouTube, and then the audio goes everywhere else. So yeah, it's always video and audio.
We have the same setup right now. And you'll have to listen to my last episode, because I actually interviewed a guy who is a podcast expert, and he has a podcast hosting system, company. And he was talking a little bit about how sometimes, the audiences on YouTube are going to be different from the audio, but right now I'm just throwing mine on both places. And it's the same. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind as far as, how can you have the fastest speed connection, especially when you're doing, like, if you're doing are you interviewing people, or are you just recording your own?
Yeah, so all my episodes now are all entirely interviews. So I'm always interviewing somebody else on my show. I have yet to do a solo episode, but I want to. I want to do a solo episode, maybe the episode 33 or 34. Maybe the next couple episodes might be solo, but for now it's all interview style podcasts.
When I when I do a solo, I can record differently than I do when I have an interview. I could record just directly into the computer,
Mhm.
rather than having to, make sure that my internet and your internet are both, stable enough to be able to pull it off without glitches and sync problems and things like that. So yeah, solo interviews are interesting, but your episodes are interesting because you don't get to feed off of each other. You're feeding off yourself. You can
Yeah,
do it.
I just think that I'm kind of nervous doing a solo, like just talking. This is my thing though. Like my strength is I could speak to people all day long, like have
Yep.
interviews, either being interviewed or interviewing people, no problem. But when it comes to me speaking by myself on a camera, just talking
Mhm.
to myself, it's very difficult for me. I need more practice in that area. So that's kind of the reason why I haven't done any solo episodes. Some people are completely the opposite. They could do only solo. They love
Mhm.
talking to their, especially a lot of YouTubers. They love just doing their own camera, their own video,
Yep.
and then they don't really like interview styles. So I'm the opposite.
It is actually kind of handy to have a couple solo episodes in your back pocket. At
Yeah.
least if you have something that you're brewing on that you can think that you could talk about for the length of your episode.
Yeah.
So that if your interview falls through, you have something that you can stay on your schedule.
Mhm.
I have done it a couple of different ways. Oftentimes when I've done a solo episode, I end up doing it twice, and
Mhm.
I'll remember all the things I wanted to say because I just am working off like a bullet points or something like that. Then I'll be like, oh dang it, I wanted to add this and that and the other thing, and then I'll record it again. The trick with recording it the second time is that I can't remember what I already said versus what I'm saying now. So taking a break and doing it a couple of days later is helpful. So moving into the city, or moving out of the city into the suburb, it sounds like you're going to have a few other changes. Can you think about, are you ever seeing anybody in person as far as your work is concerned, or is it all 100% virtual?
It's like 99% virtual. The 1% is usually like close family and close friends. Like I have some friends, we go out to dinner, we all talk about business. So that's the 1%
Okay.
time. But the rest majority, it's going to be virtually. Even sometimes with family and friends, we do it virtually because they're busy. And like we might need to do some, we only have like a few hours to like hang out. So we don't want to fill that up with business. So we just
Mhm.
schedule outside of that time to do it virtually. So that's another advantage of doing things virtually, is that you could do more things even with people you see face to face.
When you move, will you be closer or further from those friends and family?
Kind of half and half. Half my life is here in the actual city, and then half of it is out in the suburbs. So pretty much half and half. It's going to be a trade-off, but it's going to be. I think overall, it's going to be easier to move around. Chicago, it's like a very dense city. Parking is terrible. There's traffic always. Like for example, in the city of Chicago, like 1 mile in the city is a big deal. That's like a long distance. 1 mile
Right.
that could take you half. Like that's a big portion of your day gone in traffic. Whereas in the
Mhm.
suburbs, you could just, there's roads everywhere that you can just fly around on going like 50 miles per hour. So you can get around quicker. You can go to stores, you can go shopping, you can go to the gym, all just parking wherever you want. Is parking is
Mhm.
no problem in the suburbs. But in the city, you have to really think about like, oh, I don't want to lose my parking spot. Oh, I have to, there's gonna be a lot of traffic. Oh, there's gonna
Or
be a
plug that
parade.
meter. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Oh
gonna be a
gosh.
festival, the street is gonna be closed, the
Yeah.
National Guard might be in town. No, I'm just kidding. But that
Oh
was what
man.
that was one problem we had last year with the like in 2020 with the looting. Like literally, it was like a military base.
Mm. So it sounds like you do have a car,
Yeah.
so that won't change. Have you been using public transport much as well?
Um, no, I either walk places, bike ride a lot throughout the city, and then sometimes like Uber, Lyft around the city. But yeah, public transportation, not really, just because of usually people who work take public transportation to places like they work certain places in the city, but I never really needed to, like just for like one place to go to.
Hmm. And let's talk a little bit about your perfect day. Like when you are waking up in the morning and you're like, I'm going to get my work done, but I also want to have like work life balance. What does that look like for you now? And how do you think it might change as you move?
Yeah, so now like a good day for me now is just waking up like 6 o'clock in the morning, getting work done, like starting to wind down the day by like 3:30, 4 o'clock, going to the gym, finishing up. That's like a productive good day. And then when I go to the suburbs, I want it to be a little bit similar to that. I've always wanted to complete my whole day, whether it's all my work stuff, all my non-work stuff, like paying bills, calling people, like outside of work, and the gym, all before 5 o'clock. Just because I know that in the evening, it's only going to be if you only have like a short period of time, like for dinner, for hanging out with your family and doing other things. You only have a short window. So I want to keep all the work stuff, non-fun stuff outside of the evening hours. That way I could just free it up. So that's kind of like in my eyes, in my mind, like a perfect day. And then of course, getting the top priorities done, checked off the list. And the top priorities are like is helping your business move. And then what that means typically is for a lot of business owners is, our sales where you want, our leads where you want, marketing where you at, like I hate to say it, but are the dollars, like, are you making money? That's the top priority usually for businesses. And not to say that business is all about money, but it's to say that, are you surviving financially as a business owner? And are those things checked off? And then if so, then you can move on to the other non-urgent, non-important tasks.
So a while back, I had you fill out my guest interest
Yeah.
form, and you said it's all about, let's see, it's all about time management, priority, and focus. Do you want to
Yeah.
expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, definitely. So it's, working from home, a lot of people who struggle, they struggle working from home is that you're not at a company, you're not in an office building, it could be very easy. Most people get distracted. And I did too, working from home in the beginning. There's a lot of distractions because technically you could just do whatever you want anytime you want. Until your boss finds out. So one of the ways, you have to have a lot of like strategies and things in place to keep you motivated and keep you focused. Like one thing I do is I write out all my tasks every day from my calendar. So every morning I log into my calendar. I look at all my tasks. Let's just say there's 10 of them. They're all in their own individual time slots. So I'll take those 10 and then copy them into a checklist. I write them down. Now, people might ask, isn't that redundant? You're just going to copy the calendar tasks onto paper. And yes, it could be just redundant, but I like to start with activity in the morning, get my mind moving, and then just kind of reading off the tasks, writing them. And there might be some other tasks that are not on the calendar, but still need to be on the to-do list. For example, like the podcast today with you, like podcast with April, it's not just that, but also prep podcast with April. So that's two tasks from one thing. So I would write that in, prep, check that off, and then move on to the next task. And another thing too is that no matter how busy I am, I only do one task at a time per time slot. So like right now, it's just you and I on this podcast. Even if I have 100 other things to do, it's just you and I block this out. Everything else comes after or before this time slot. So having these things are really important for being productive, getting things done, and staying focused. And the way you start your day typically is the way the day will end. So if you start your day off on like TikTok and YouTube and like social media, it's probably going to progress that way throughout the day. But if you start off in the morning with your calendar, and then I always do the easiest tasks, like the first 4 or 5 tasks that are super easy in the beginning, because this way, like for example, check financial tracker, done. Check email calendar, done. Check, these simple things that take 2 or 3 minutes to do. But once I already have like 20 lists done, and then the top 4 or 5 already checked off, now I'm on a roll. Now that already woke me up. I woke up myself by getting things done. And it's just like a matter, like I'm almost tricking myself to do the more complicated ones as fast as I do with the same momentum as the easier tasks.
You sound like a motivated person. What kind of hangups do you have? Like what will get you off track?
Yeah. What will get me off track is like if I'm closing like a really big case and we can't move forward. There's some sort of hurdle where we're coming across either from my end or from the client or both. That's really the only thing that will really like kind of ruin my day and kind of throw off all the momentum. But one thing to keep in mind is that like out of all the things you do throughout your day, there are certain things that you have control over and certain things you don't have control over. For example, like I could say call client. I can control that task, but I can't say close deal with client in which the client has to send me a check. I can't control what the client is doing. However, to reduce that stress and anxiety, I'm only going to focus on my control. What are the things that I can control, the verbs that I can control, not the verbs that other people can control. So that's something that people kind of mix up too, is like, what if nobody buys from you? Nobody would trust you. That's on them. Well, you can apply your tasks to make sure that you increase the likelihood of those things happening.
I want to change gears a little bit, unless you have anything else you want to add. No. I do like to just ask people a little bit about their home office setup. And I know you've talked about like where in your home you have it set up right now. So you've got your home office and your podcast studio in the same room. Mm-hmm. What kind of equipment have you given yourself? Because you used to work for companies. Did they give you like a laptop that you were schlepping back and forth from the home office to your on-site location? And when you went to work for yourself, did you end up having to buy equipment for yourself? What did you do for yourself to set up a good workspace?
Yeah, good question. So when I was working for companies, I was using their computers, but I always had to give those back once I left. So now I have a laptop. So I have a laptop. Sometimes I get bored of working at home and I'll go to like a nearby like Starbucks or Panera Bread and just do the work there. and bring my laptop with me, and then I also have like a PC set up, a desktop computer, so that I have it there if I'm going to be doing like more on an office setting work. And then I have my Yeti microphone right here, kind of like yours, I think, but just
Mine
not
is
the
just upside
same
down.
upside down. Yeah, I need to get that's the next step. I need to get something that's closer. And I have a ring light. I have my iPhone as a camera because I think like the quality is a little bit better with the iPhone camera. And I have an app that connects that to my PC or my laptop. What else do I have?
What app is that? I have not actually met anyone who's done that before.
Yeah, it's called Iron, something like that. IRIUN. It's an app that connects your camera to your iPhone camera. It turns it into a webcam pretty much.
I will say your camera looks good.
I think.
What would your alternative have been? Like the in laptop mic, or what
Yeah,
am I trying to say?
the in
In
laptop
laptop
mop. Yeah, it kind of it's
camera.
hard to get lighting with the in laptop mic, and the quality. I mean, it depends on the laptop you
Camera.
have, but for the most part, yeah, the camera. The angle too of how like it's on the computer, you have to keep like playing with the angle and the lighting.
Mhm.
So I just get the ring light and then the camera separate, and then I could
The
just move around.
camera on like a tripod type thing where it's like connected
Yeah,
inside of the ring light. Okay.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's on. It's so the ring light has like a tripod thing where you could add the phone inside there.
Yeah.
That's how I'm
Yeah.
talking to you right now or speaking to
I
you. And then
have
uh-huh.
I have that whole rig except for I have my computer facing a wall.
Mhm.
There's a wall behind me and there's a wall in front of me because I'm in a closet. And so
Yeah.
there's just like not a lot of space. And so I have a hard time finding a way to set up the tripod behind my camera or
Oh,
behind
okay.
my computer. So that's where
Okay.
I get hung up. Sounds like a good setup. Do you have your back to a wall and then you have your desk in front of you?
Yes. Yeah.
And why did you choose that format? I think I know why, but why did you choose that?
Um. Yeah. I don't know. I kind of so that's another thing too is that like I wanted to have like a library in the background, but I don't have a library right now, like a bookshelf.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of I wanted to have something kind of plain in the background, but not too plain. I don't know.
Yeah.
The thing is, this right here is obviously a window right here. If I open it, it's going to bring in more light. And if I bring
Mm-hmm.
in more light from the window, then it's going to take away from the ring light. So I make
Yep.
it as dark as possible in the room and then use a ring light for the lighting because I think the lighting is better around the ring light than it would be from the natural light. That makes sense.
Are you sharing a household with anyone else right now?
Yeah, I'm married. Yeah. Yeah. My wife.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one thing that I advise people is like if you do have your back to a door, that
Yeah.
person behind you could just walk in at any
Yeah.
point and be on camera. So I like to put myself up against a wall for that reason because I've
Yeah.
got, husband and children who could walk in at any point. And that way it gives me a little bit more control over what my clients or my guests can see.
Yeah, it's like all those like in the beginning of COVID, all those like bloopers that people had like working from home, like
Too many.
their
Yeah. I mean, when they say you can work without pants, they don't literally mean you should do that when you're on camera.
Yeah. Yep.
And so what are you going to think about when you're setting up in your new office?
Yeah, definitely the bookshelf in the background. I've always loved that. I read a lot of books, so I kind of
Yeah.
want to have that like part of my identity of who I am in the background. And let's see what else. Yeah, that's pretty much it. The background, the space. It's also going to be further away from everything. Like right now, like the office is like it's an apartment, so everything's
Mhm.
kind of on the first floor. Whereas
Mhm.
the home office is going to be like separated. Like I'm going to have the office on the third floor, and then everybody's going to probably be hanging out on like the second floor,
Mhm.
or even the lower floor. So there's going to be more space in between me and then everybody else in the home, which we're looking forward to it because sometimes like when I do these, for example, as you know, Yeti mics pick up everything. Like if
Got
you
to
live in
turn
an
the
apartment,
gain way down.
yeah, they pick up everything. Like if
Yeah.
you live in an apartment, they can pick up your neighbors talking. It's really creepy, but you have
Yeah.
to consider these things. And when my wife is a nurse and she works like crazy hours, like she'll work like Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then be off the rest of the week.
Yeah.
And so sometimes when I'm doing this podcast, she can't like watch TV or she can't be on the phone. So she has to
Yeah.
like go out and do other things. So we have to make those arrangements for podcasting. But I think when we move into our house, we could do more things like soundproof. We have more control over that part.
Right. Yeah. I have to make an announcement every time I'm going to be recording,
Yeah.
hey everyone, I'm going to be in a meeting. You gotta
Yeah.
Basically don't come upstairs, don't come in my door, don't knock on it, don't,
Yeah.
like, I've always joked that, like, if I ever put my hand up, I love you very much, but this
Yeah.
just means that you need to wait.
Hmm.
um, yeah. We had it for a while where if I was recording a podcast, my internet just was not enough to
Yeah.
handle it if anyone was streaming or if my husband was also in a Skype meeting or something like that. I think they just switched from Skype to Teams.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's just like it was really hard to have two people doing the same, thing at the same time. And now it's getting a little bit easier because I've been able to boost my internet. We don't have fiber where I live,
Yeah.
but we have close. Like it's
Okay.
like the Giggle Blast or whatever they call it. And
Yeah.
that has given my husband the freedom to be able to like use his phone again while I'm recording
Yeah.
or to, maybe even stream Netflix. We try not to, but it's a possibility. So, all right.
Nice.
Well, any thoughts about I guess I do like to get advice from people who have worked from home.
Yeah.
You've been doing it for nearly a decade.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have people coming to you and asking you, how do you do it? Like, what are the
All the
pros and
time.
cons?
Yeah, all the time, definitely. So here's the thing. So it's very convenient, right? Like for example, if my wife and I have plans at like 6 o'clock p.m. in the evening, I'm already here. Like I don't have to like drive for an hour home or 45
Get
minutes
caught
in
in
traffic.
traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Like work is at home. So that's the upside, There are so many times too, like for example, my wife's family lives like in a far suburbs that's like 2 hours away from us. So when we go visit her family, sometimes I'll just leave in the middle of the day and then like go over there and like finish up my work there, or go to Starbucks in that city. And then finish it up there. So I have a lot of flexibility as far as location. I've done work internationally. Like we've gone to Mexico. I've done work there, Costa Rica, like in the
Awesome.
Middle East and Europe. Like I've logged in and just like finished up something real quick while we're on vacation, while we're visiting other countries. So definitely. But then obviously with everything in life, there's pros and cons. Some of the downsides of working from home is you go crazy. Like you know what I mean. Like you don't really like I truly miss like going out and like talking to people and like dressing up, and I miss all those things, and I think that's healthy for you, like to go out and physically see people and talk to people. Obviously with the pandemic and people work from home, not only was there a virus outside, but also mental health started to become an issue because people spend too much time alone.
Yeah.
They It's almost like your social interactions are like a muscle, and when you don't work out that muscle, it develops into like worse things. So kind of you have to figure out, you have to keep your social life balanced, you have to go out. Like I think about these things, so sometimes I'll schedule things to go meet with people like 1% of the time, just to kind of like keep that going, and also in the evenings. But I'm more concerned about using this job and using these abilities to fund a life outside of this, not just to have my life as work, but also to use these things to travel more, to go and see family more, and to have more experiences in life. So that's kind of like one of the downsides to working from home.
I get it. I used to have to commute 45 minutes to an hour every day
Yeah.
to get to work. And I hated it because
Yeah.
I lived in Minnesota and it was dangerous. What I learned later, after working from home for a few years, is I missed the
Yeah.
green. I missed seeing the fields that were just washed with rain and the rainbow. I just missed it. The clouds.
Yeah.
I just missed seeing it. And so now I'm just like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go for a drive. I don't even have to go anywhere. I'm just
Yeah.
going to
Yeah.
literally go for a drive. And
Yeah.
that has
Yeah.
helped me.
You're so right. I miss driving too now. Like if I have to drive somewhere that's 45 minutes, I get kind of excited. You get to like listen to podcasts, listen to
Yeah.
music, just be in your own bubble. But when you're working from home, you don't have that. You don't have to get up in the morning and drive anywhere. You're already at home.
So
But
you
yeah,
just have to be intentional, I think,
yeah,
about like, well, I used to get this fulfillment from my work. Now I have to
yes,
make it for myself. And I can get that with my friends and family in a way that I
yes,
wouldn't have had time for in the past.
exactly. Yes. Mhm.
Sarry, why don't you go ahead and tell us one more time where we can find you, who you
Yeah.
serve, like if anyone is going to need insurance or
Yeah.
financial coaching or advice, who are you looking to work with?
Yeah, definitely, April. Thank you for that. So listeners can go to finassetprotection.com. It's FIN assetprotection.com. You could schedule a free call. You could download my book from there. You could connect with me on YouTube, LinkedIn. You can send me an email. All of that is going to be in the website, finassetprotection.com. And if you're in all 50 states, you want to talk to somebody about growing more money over time, investing, saving money, buying a house, you're in debt, kind of any financial struggles you're having, you want just somebody to kind of coach you throughout the process. I do give like a 1 hour free consultation with people just to kind of see if it would be a good fit. It doesn't have to be 1 hour. It could be up to 1 hour for free to see if it would be a good fit and to see how I can help them. So definitely, if you want to take advantage of that, or you want to just consume some of my content first and then reach out to me, it all starts with finassetprotection.com.
And just for fun, why don't you go ahead and spell your name for us?
Yeah, definitely. It's Sarry, Sarry. And then my last name is Ibrahim. It's Ibrahim.
And what was the name of the book you mentioned?
Yeah, so I have a couple books I usually give away for free. So one of them is Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash. I can give you that talks about this, one of the strategies we use. And then another book is my book. It's called Thinking Like a Bank. It's also the name of the podcast. And I can send you a free copy of that book if you just go to our website.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And is that electronic book?
Yeah, both of them are going to be electronic. Yes.
Got it. All right. Well, any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Oh yeah, definitely. I appreciate being here. I love the questions. I think working from home is an amazing thing. You just have to be a little bit more responsible, more self-disciplined. But yeah, it's definitely, I think overall, this is the future, right? This is the way we're going to be living in the future. And yeah, I love it. I love being here. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Sarry. I will close this out then, I think. All right. This has been Sarry Ibrahim with April Malone. And yes, I work from home, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.
Thanks.